Hello and thanks for joining us here at France 24. Time now for Reporters, our in-depth look at issues from around the world. As Syria's civil war rages on, over 2 million Syrians have fled their homeland. Some are headed to Europe, but they're finding that Fortress Europe is a difficult place to enter. The EU is spending millions of euros reinforcing its frontiers near the biggest overland route from Turkey. Indeed, only about 64,000 Syrians have got asylum in Europe. That's 1/10 of those registered in Turkey. Europe's reluctance, there are only 2,000 refugees that have made it to France, for example, has prompted the UN to demand more, asking the EU to resettle 30,000 of the most vulnerable. And within the EU itself, the situation varies wildly. Josh Vardy has met some of those Syrian refugees on their journey from Istanbul to Bulgaria and Sweden. Take a look at his report.
It's been called the greatest humanitarian crisis of modern times.
Where do you want to go in your plane?
Back to homes.
War in Syria has forced millions out of their country and onto the road, with few resources and fewer options. Many hope crossing Europe's borders will grant them a new life. But as these people are finding out, hope and freedom come at a price, and neither is guaranteed. The journey out of the Middle East often starts here in Istanbul. Amro, a young Syrian from Aleppo, has been living in hostels across the city for months. He wants to get on a plane and move to Malaysia with his Russian girlfriend, but his Syrian passport is invalid and he hasn't found a way to renew it in time.
Go. Okay. Don't be late. For Syrian people, renewing is such a hard case to have. The government doesn't want to give them passports because they worked in relief and helping people in war, so they are terrorists for this.
Malaysia is one of the few places Syrian passport holders can legally travel to outside the Middle East, but Amro's girlfriend has to go on without him.
Send me a message. I just wish one day that I'll just have a normal life like any person. No, I don't want to keep moving. Enough.
Now, Amro has to move somewhere cheaper, and he knows his options here are running out. He's already tried the European route.
I paid some money for a smuggler. I arrived in the Bulgarian border. But they captured me after the line of Bulgaria. So I stamped on the land of Bulgaria. They punished me, they hated me, and they threw me back just on the other side, like of the border, the Turkish border. And they said, you don't have a right here.
Forcing refugees back over the border like this is illegal under the Geneva Convention, but it's a common story among Syrians here in Istanbul. Amro doesn't want to try again, but his friend Hassan sees Europe as the only hope.
I've tried twice to get into Greece. Both times I was caught and taken to jail for a few hours.
Will you try again?
Yes, I'm going to try again and again.
Why?
This is Europe. Do I have a need to answer? There's freedom there. Sweden, Germany, Britain. This is where we want to go.
Hassan says he won't give up, but the odds of his success are increasingly stacked against him. Physical barriers are being built along Europe's borders with Turkey. After Greece's wall along the Evros River, Bulgaria started construction on its own border fence in October. The aim is clear: to keep the refugees out.
We have been given 5.86 million euros from the EU. We will take control of our border crisis, and this is a very important stage.
In 2013, over 11,000 asylum seekers crossed the Bulgarian land border. The majority were Syrians. Bulgaria's EU membership gives the country access to resources like FRONTEX, the European border agency.
There's a camera from the Bulgarian colleagues, and there's also a thermal vision.
FRONTEX officers are selected from police forces across the EU. There are currently around 20 stationed here, ready to give the Bulgarian border police backup assistance if needed.
Most of the time we're patrolling in the car, and there is somewhere in the area there is a thermovision van who can watch at night. And if they see groups of migrants or groups of people, then they will tell us where we have to go.
The Bulgarian government, in cooperation with the EU, is spending vast resources on locking down the land border. Until recently, the streets of Goyam Dervent, a small border village, were packed with new arrivals. That's no longer the case.
Between 80 and 100 people used to come here a day. The immigration wave is over. There are no more immigrants here at all.
The border is 4 to 5 kilometers away from here. The immigrants can't come in because they're guarding the border. There is one police officer every 20 meters. As soon as they see them, they push them back into Turkey.
Even for those that make it here to Bulgaria, there's little to welcome them on this side of the wall. The sudden influx from the south has forced the Bulgarian government in Sofia to act fast in finding accommodation. Places like this former school have been hastily turned into temporary housing. There are not many staff working here, so Nidal, a Syrian-born journalist who's lived in Sofia for 15 years, often comes to help out.
I come to the center from time to time to talk to the refugees, for them to tell me what they need. They need someone to listen to them, and it can be hard because of the language barrier. They need to talk to someone, for someone to give them hope.
The building currently houses over 300 people. In this room, donations from outside are collected by a committee formed by the refugees.
Is this where you sort donations?
Yes, everything comes in here and then we give it out. The families have registered their names and room number, and then we deliver each box.
The meeting provides a good opportunity for Nidal to find out what's happening at the camp.
Were you exposed to people that attacked foreigners? Are you afraid to go out?
There were some guys from the camp who wanted to get on the tram. They went to a station and then a group of men got onto the train after them, surrounded them and then attacked them.
Violent incidents which are becoming more common here in Sofia. Boyan RASATE is the leader of the far-right National Unity Party, which has sought to make political capital from the spike in immigration. He and his followers caused controversy in 2013 when they carried out nightly vigilante patrols in the area around Sofia's only working mosque.
We would walk around this downtown area of Sofia to try to instill respect in those around us. We wanted to show that the area was under surveillance, so that any people who had criminal intent would know they were being watched.
The patrols were eventually stopped by police, but RASATE clearly still has support.
Chase those foreigners away. Those Syrians should get out of here. The government pays them wages that are much more than my pension. They're neglecting us Bulgarians, but respecting the foreigners. It's disgraceful.
Refugees are given a small amount of money by the government, 50 leva a month, roughly 20 euros. Barely enough to live on for a week. And living conditions here at the camp are basic. Families are packed together tightly in the classrooms, where the only privacy is afforded by tent cloth.
The baby in this room was born 5 days ago. You've got no heating?
We have no heating in here.
In November, the temperature at night is often below zero, but many of these old classrooms don't have sufficient heating. The decrepit pipes were never built to withstand such heavy use, and there are almost constant leaks and power cuts.
It's not finished yet. Electric is gone, and every day this happens.
Many here say the conditions make them wish they'd never made the dangerous journey from Turkey at all.
We thought that Bulgaria be a good example for the Europe country. We didn't thought that it will be a, believe me, bad example. Believe me, we didn't thought the situation would be like that. Even it's poor country, it don't matter.
When these people paid smugglers their last money to penetrate the walls being built around Europe, they expected to find security on the other side. Those hopes were quickly disillusioned. In Ljusdal, North Sweden, Khaled is reflecting on his incredible luck in making it here from Istanbul, a road on which so many fail. But success did not come cheap.
I met one of the dealers, then I got Swedish passport. And I paid a lot of money. It's almost everything that my family have.
This is Khaled's current home, the Swedish equivalent of the old Bulgarian school. Shireen, an English teacher from Damascus, has already been here for 2 months.
Actually, we don't call this a corridor. We call it neighborhood. First, when we arrived here, there were billiards and ping-pong tennis table. And what another? A TV.
What the hell?
But now it's all rooms.
Sweden has seen asylum claims shoot up since September when it announced all Syrian refugees applying there would be granted permanent residency. Here they have access to decent housing, healthcare and education from the moment they arrive. Almost every applicant will have reached the country by illegal means. Shireen and her husband almost suffocated hidden in the back of a goods lorry on their journey through Europe to Sweden. Now they are among the lucky few with the opportunity to build a new life. And yet there's no replacement for what they left behind.
I know I'm gonna settle down and I want to proceed my life here and continue. But you know, they say sometimes you're like a tree who's been took out from the ground and now you are root without soil. But let me tell you something, we didn't have the time to take our roots out. Our roots are still there. I don't know. Maybe only our children here will have their roots, but still we need our roots there.
Millions of euros are being spent on securing Europe's borders, and millions more are filling the pockets of human traffickers from Istanbul to Stockholm. Faced with these obstacles, Syrians looking for safety say they are almost surprised when they find it.
Some people like me, they succeed to come to this beautiful place. It's very safe, and actually I'm in shock because, you know, until this moment here in Sweden I'm not afraid, not anymore.
For Khaled, the European gamble was worth it, a game with increasing numbers of players, but fewer and fewer winners.
Now, for a closer look at that report, we're going to speak with its author, Josh Avadi, who joins us in the studio now. Josh, how desperate is the situation in Turkey that many people are risking over and over again, pretty much risking everything to cross over into Europe?
It's important to understand how few options refugees have once they leave Syria. You can either go to Jordan or Lebanon, where there are already hundreds of thousands of refugees, and stay in a camp, or you can go to Turkey. And in Turkey, you don't have the right to legally work. You don't have the right to education, healthcare, that sort of thing. And so you're at the mercy of unscrupulous people. You saw Amro in the report. He can't get a passport. So his only choice is to go to these human traffickers, who are the only ones benefiting from the crisis.
OK. You're speaking of the human misery that this is causing. Some people, of course, are regretting making the journey. Amongst the people that you met, how common was that feeling?
I spoke to a man in Sweden, in the camp at the end there, from Yarmouk, which is the area of Damascus that's been under siege for 8 months. And he said if he'd known what the situation was going to be like, crossing the Mediterranean in a boat, he wouldn't have tried. He would have stayed in Yarmouk. So generally people are quite happy to have got to Europe, but it's not quite what they expected.
Speaking about getting to Europe, how much responsibility can Europe itself actually take for the Syrian refugee crisis?
It's true that convincing Europeans of their responsibility towards Syrian refugees is quite a hard sell politically. But you can't just build a wall all the way around Europe. At the moment, European policy is directed towards fulfilling quotas. For example, France has promised 500 refugees places in France. But compare that to 600,000 refugees in Turkey, and it's nothing. I mean, you're more likely to get into Europe if you pay a human smuggler than if you apply for the resettlement lottery.
Josh Vardy, thank you very much for that analysis of that report. You're watching France 24, more news and headlines. Do stay tuned.